Hey everybody, it's win or go home time. It is week 15 waiver wire selection stream plays. I'm not doing long-term plays in this video anymore. I got you covered for quarterbacks, defense, special team, tight ends, wide receivers, and running backs. Yes, there is still value on the waiver wire out there, and I will cover them. You can go ahead and use the hyperlinks below to get to a specific position group that you're looking for. But before we get rolling here, I want to, basically it's the holiday season, right, everybody? Whether you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah, or maybe you don't celebrate any of those holidays or any of the gift-giving holidays or anything. Regardless, I want to use this platform for some good towards the end of the year here. So I'm donating money and donating proceeds from this show to charity, okay? And I can tell you every dollar that comes in from me doing this show will go straight to charity. I can promise you that. But I have two causes. I have the links in the show notes below. Please, everybody, you can make a difference. Just $1. Seriously, $1 will go a long way. And the two causes that I've picked for this channel are the Ronald McDonald House and the March of Dimes House. As somebody who hangs around kids all the time, I got to say it really sucks when kids are dealt a blow. Kids usually are very resilient, but it's just heartbreaking to see any kid go through a bad time. So if you can do your part to make a kid who's been dealt a really bad hand of cards smile, then I think you've done a very, very good job. I think this holiday season, or this December if you prefer that. That's what I'm going to be doing. Any cause, but seriously, $1 really goes a long way, so please do that. Now let's get into the good stuff, the quarterbacks selection stream plays, and these are optimized now. I put these together in terms of how I think they'll actually do this week. So you can see right off the bat, quarterbacks: Ryan Tannehill, Eli Manning with an asterisk. This, of course, assumes that Daniel Jones is not playing. Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield, Ryan Fitzpatrick. And a couple notes on these guys. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I'm assuming Derrick Henry will play. If Derrick Henry does not play, Fitzpatrick needs that support from Derrick Henry to excel. And frankly, Derrick Henry needs Ryan Tannehill's play to excel as well. So, these guys have been playing very well together, both in the run and the passing game. We saw what they did to Oakland last week. I don't think that they'll replicate that against Houston, but I do like the weapons that Tannehill has. I like that he has a couple of tight ends, not just Jonnu Smith to throw to. I like A.J. Brown. He looks like a monster. Adam Humphries hopefully will be back. I haven't seen the latest injury news on him yet, but regardless, I think Ryan Tannehill will score well this week. Now, Eli Manning against Miami's defense, a defense that's giving up around 30 points per game, an offense, by the way, that might have Evan Ingram back, but will have Darius Slay, Sterling Shepard, and Golden Tate to throw to. So I like the weapons there. And by the way, Saquon Barkley's also on that team. They can throw to him. Now, they didn't make that happen against Philadelphia on Monday night, but if Eli Manning plays against Miami, I do like that matchup for him. And yes, I understand if you're playing Eli, that's scary. You got Jimmy Garoppolo against Atlanta. Atlanta's defense has been playing better, so I don't think that's a slam dunk, but I do like Deebo Samuel. I do like Emmanuel Sanders. Of course, I love George Kittle. They have a good stable of running backs to throw to in the screen game, and we all saw how many points they put up against the San Francisco 49ers team, put against New Orleans, and I think New Orleans has a pretty decent defense there. Baker Mayfield versus Cincinnati. Oh wait, they're not playing Cincinnati. I can't remember who they're playing. Shoot, that's a typo. I think they played Cincinnati last week. But either way, I like Baker Mayfield. I think it might be Arizona. Now, Baker Mayfield is going to get better and better. I don't love that he has Odell Beckham that he's throwing to, and Odell Beckham has that injury that we just found out about. But I do think David Njoku, spoiler alert for the tight ends, will be a factor this week. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick also against the New York Giants. That assumes that Devontae Parker will play. If Parker does not play, I'm just staying away because I just really don't know who he throws to. Next on the list, defense and special teams. Okay, in order, we have Tennessee versus Houston. We have Kansas City versus Denver. We have Philadelphia versus Washington. We have Tampa Bay versus Indianapolis. Once again, sorry I didn't change that slide there for Tennessee. They are not playing Oakland. I played them last week. It's Tennessee versus Houston. I like this Tennessee defense, a lot more if Will Fuller doesn't play. If Will Fuller does play, I probably honestly move down to Denver. Now, Drew Lock has been playing very well in Denver. However, I think Kansas City is dialed in defensively, and even if Drew Lock plays well, I think they might be able to force some turnovers or something like that. So I do like them. And then, Denver, anytime a young quarterback, all season really, young quarterbacks come in here, played well, and then defenses have caught up. I still think we might be a week or two away from that actually happening to Drew Lock. But Kansas City did well against Tom Brady last week. I think they can do well against Drew Lock this week. Philadelphia against Washington. Darius Geis is out. A couple of receivers are banged up. Look, Washington doesn't have a lot of weapons. It's basically Adrian Peterson, Terry McLaurin, and nobody else. I think Philadelphia, meanwhile, Washington wants to run. Philadelphia is great against the run. I think this defense not only has a chance for low point output for the opposing offense in Washington, but they also have a chance to create some turnovers there. And then you have Tampa Bay, who's playing Detroit. I'm not a big believer in Detroit's offense where it is today. However, I'm not a huge believer either in Tampa Bay's defense. If you're down to Tampa Bay and that's your only option, although I do have them projected to have a nice game, I'd be mortified, frankly, if I had to play them. But these are how the projections turned out based on waiver play. Oh my goodness, I hope you can do better than Tampa Bay. Next, we have tight ends. So let's just go through the list here. I think David Njoku has a really nice game against Arizona, assuming he plays a full snap count complement there, only owned in 23% of the leagues. Darren Fells against Tennessee, 19.9% of the leagues. He's pretty much a tight end or bust guy. We'll see what happens with the Will Fuller injury. I think that's going to have permutations across that entire team. Hopefully he can play. If you are a Texans fan, if you're a Titans fan, I'm sure you're just fine if he stays out one more week. Jacob Hollister versus Carolina. I do think this is the weekend he gets back into the end zone. Now owned in 44.3% of the leagues. I remember when I was talking about him and he was owned in 0% of the leagues, so it's kind of funny to see him pop up. It's almost like I'm a proud father in a way. Jonnu Smith versus Houston. Tannehill is showing him more and more trust. He's playing very well. Nice, talented young player, owned in 6.9% of the leagues. And then Nick Boyle has an asterisk there. If Mark Andrews with that thigh bruise can't go, remember it's a short week and Thursday Night Football is coming up. If he can't go and Mark Andrews, and believe me, if Baltimore, if they're worried about him long term, they're not going to risk him against the Jets. I think that Nick Boyle is better to be owned than Hayden Hurst. Now, Hayden Hurst is the better probably pure catcher, pass catcher, but I think Nick Boyle fits a little bit more with how this Baltimore offense wants to run the ball consistently. I do think both would be used, but I think Boyle would be the best play there. Okay, and let's move it over to wide receiver. We have Deebo Samuel against Atlanta. He's been, I think, one of the favorites on my list for quite some time now, still owned in less than half of the leagues out there. The Atlanta matchup, I don't think it's as good as it is for wide receiver as it was early in the season, but I still think it gives promise, and I think that Jimmy Garoppolo can hit him certainly. Zach Pascal against New Orleans, I like, owned in 30% of the leagues. Regardless of whether or not T.Y. Hilton plays or not, I think Pascal will be involved in the offense. Philip Dorsett against Cincinnati, Russell Gage against San Francisco. Now, that Cincinnati matchup, they usually give up at the middle of the field. I think the Patriots can exploit that this week. I think the Patriots offense will be okay. Russell Gage, keep in mind Calvin Ridley is now out for the season, and Julio Jones has been banged up, so Russell Gage could be like the volume guy there. Normally, I would say because they're playing San Francisco, it would give me a little bit of pause, but remember Richard Sherman is now out. That whole defensive backfield is banged up and got banged up in the New Orleans Saints game. I think Russell Gage could do better than a typical wide receiver would usually do against San Francisco. And then J.J. Arcega-Whiteside against Washington. That asterisk out there is to note, assuming Alshon Jeffrey can't go. If he can't go, I think Arcega-Whiteside can be a really good player for you and a sleeper, especially in daily fantasy this week. Now let's move it lastly to the running backs. The running back position, we have Raheem Mostert. He should have been picked up last week. Now you're going to have to battle for him. It's still only owned in really less than a quarter of the leagues out there, 23.7%. That's too little. I do think he will lead that San Francisco backfield in carries. He's a factor in the passing game as well. You need to pick him up. Adrian Peterson, Darius Geis is likely out for the season. I think he just got put in the injured reserve, if I'm not mistaken, with that MCL injury. Adrian Peterson, he will get the volume against Philadelphia. The problem is Philadelphia's run defense is very good, and they're going to be ready for Adrian Peterson's volume, but at least he'll get you volume, and that means you have a shot. Benny Snell, the asterisk assumes James Conner is out. If James Conner is back, I don't like Benny Snell at all this week. Royce Freeman, I like a little bit more, even with Philip Lindsay playing in Kansas City. Boston Scott, there's an asterisk there. That assumes that Jordan Howard is out. If Jordan Howard's back, I don't like it. It's too much, dilution inside that Philadelphia Eagles backfield. Then you're just kind of playing, flip a coin kind of situation there. And then CJ Prosise, if you missed it, Rashad Penny is now on the injured reserve list. Now, I still think Chris Carson dominates snaps, but they have liked to work another running back in there. I tend to think Chris Carson will get most of that fallout volume, but CJ Prosise, if you're super desperate, he's going to be out there for you. And who knows? He could get you enough catches and yards in in a PPR league to help you get over the goal line there. So everybody, that brings me through this waiver wire show. Please like, comment, subscribe. Once again, check the show notes below. I'll link you directly to the charities. Even $1, everybody. If you can make a $1 donation, it really makes a difference. Think about that. It's probably less than a lot of you pay in daily fantasy in the week. So, or if you don't want to do that, then maybe make a mental deal with yourself. Whatever you win in daily fantasy this week, give a little bit of that back. But that always helps. Yeah, check us back for another episode. We'll be back with the game previews later in the week, and we will see you then. Thanks.